C.I.C. meeting of September 10th, 2024. We will go ahead and first call the roll.
Mr. Unger.
Here.
Ms. Ulrich.
Here.
Mr. Wallert.
Here.
Mr. McElravy.
Here.
Mr. Morbeck.
Here.
And I am here.
All right, you have been provided minutes from the last meeting in the...
If I might interrupt, I apologize. Those are not available for review for today.
Okay, so we've not been provided those yet. So we'll go ahead and also, we don't have I think there's something on the template, we don't have
Acceptance of the agenda.
acceptance of the agenda. So at this point, I'm going to motion, you have in front of the meeting agenda, is there a motion to accept the agenda as provided for this evening?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as provided, absent number 2, approval of minutes.
All right, is there a second to that?
I will second that, but I would like to add, if time allows, for a public discussion if we don't run out of time on this.
Okay, so we will add, so we're deleting number 2, approval of minutes, and adding number 6, public discussion, if time allows. Time dependent. Okay,
No other discussion from me.
so we have a motion that has been duly seconded to accept the meeting agenda with the following amendments of removing number 2, approval of minutes, and adding number 6, public discussion, time dependent. We'll go ahead and, are there any other comments with regard to that?
None.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the question.
All right. Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. Wallert.
Yes.
Mr. McElravy. Yes. Mr. Morbeck.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
All right, fantastic. The new business, Mr. Miller, I assume you're going to tee that up for us?
I will. So we have a new planner in the development department. That's Ms. Maggie Klein, and I would recommend that she be appointed to the Community Improvement Corporation as our secretary.
You moved that she would?
I do
I will
move.
second the motion to appoint Maggie Klein as secretary.
All right, so we have a motion, and it's been duly seconded to appoint Ms. Klein as secretary of the C.I.C. Is there any discussion?
Not at this time.
Welcome aboard.
Well, not officially yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's so many
to
people.
keep her on pins and needles. Do you accept that nomination, Ms. Klein?
Yes, I accept.
Okay, in that case, we will call the question.
Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. Wallert.
Yes?
Mr. McElravy.
Yes.
Mr. Morbeck.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
All right, Mr. Miller, the presentation of the C.I.C. financial audit.
Yes, I would like to ask Mr. McElravy, our treasurer, to present those, if you will.
Good afternoon. I am very pleased to share that the Auditor of State has completed its audit of the CIC for the last 2 years, and that the audit came back clean. So, very good news on that front.
All right, do we have to motion to accept the audit, or is it?
It says no action is requested of the board, but I would, Mr. McElravy, it looks like there is a link to it in our agenda for anybody that wants to see the report.
That's right.
Okay, well, thank you for your work on that.
Outstanding. And then we go to old business, Sears Utilities.
All right, so we have had the privilege of having the Port Authority partner with us on this project. They have been managing the building for us and helping keep an eye on all of the variety of issues that have come up. It's been very quiet, I think, this summer. Since the temperatures had dropped, we were able to reduce almost all of the utilities within the building. And so with the recent announcement from the Port Authority and the State of Ohio Department of Development with the announcement that we were successful in getting a grant for the demolition, the latest discussions are twofold. The port is beginning their interviews with architects to determine what the outside facade will look like afterwards, after the building's gone, and the restoration of the facade. And then secondly, what that interior door from Sears into the mall would eventually look like as well from the inside. And so we have been in communication with mall management as well. Those are going well. I've had a discussion with Captain Mark Walsh from Colerain Fire, and given that, as well, it was a conference call with the port and their staff. Given that, excuse me, that there is nothing left in the store that is combustible for any practical purposes. Captain Walsh is comfortable with not only turning off all of our utilities, that would be the gas and the electric, which, again, notable, those are the two items, the two utilities that actually could combust if there was something to burn. So when you remove that, you've eliminated virtually all possibility of fire. So with that, he is comfortable and would sign off on turning off the water as well, and then draining the fire suppression system so that those pipes wouldn't potentially freeze in the winter. And then with that, to put up a wall that would be weatherproof, that would separate the store from the mall and seal that so that we don't have any cold air during the winter while we're working towards that demolition process. So that is the latest on the utilities for Sears.
I recall when this issue started last year that it seems like the board agreed that we would vote on when to turn off utilities. That way we all had a say in it. I guess we're at that point.
I agree.
I do think that our engineer or whoever needs to trace out where the parking lot lighting is, because once you disconnect the electric, is all the lighting on the south end of the property going to go dark?
At this point, we are not proposing to disconnect from utilities. What we're proposing is just to turn everything off so that the meter stops running. And we have done a survey with Kleiningers. They have mapped out all of the utilities so that when it is time for a demolition company to begin that, they have all of that in hand and they know where to do this, the final separation. So that would come eventually once the port does their RFP process and hires that company to do the demolition. But until then, I don't think that we have to worry about that disconnect. We're just going to turn everything off to stop any more expenses.
With the demolition, are you considering leaving the parking lot lights out there, or is that going to be part of the demolition package? I think from a security point of view, even though it would theoretically be a vacant lot at that point, it'd either be a big dark vacant lot or it would be a lit vacant lot.
There is still discussion with the Port Authority and what that eventual parking lot would look like, whether they pull up all the asphalt or if they leave it down, and then the lighting, of course, would be part of that as well. So we don't have an answer for that yet. The port would be driving that decision.
Right, and I guess if the port wants to utilize the grant money to remove all the asphalt, and if we decided to leave the asphalt there, then that grant money might go away. So is that why you're considering taking the site back down to dirt, as long as the grant would pay for that?
I think that there is a consideration of management of that vacant land once the building's gone. If we take the asphalt out, is there a different responsibility in management and how long it is before something else happens? And I think that's part of the decision-making process.
Right, and if we don't, I'm just thinking of this as we discuss it, which is why it's on here. If we take the building down and put a new facade on the west side of the mall, and that asphalt is still there, that's going to become a huge expense down the road. And when the demolition is complete and, you know, whatever funds aren't used go back to the port or the state or wherever they go, we would no longer have funds to remove the asphalt.
Valid point, certainly. I think that would all be part of the discussion of what that future use would be as well.
Right. So are you proposing that we would turn off the utilities, say October 1st, or turn off the HVAC October 1st or something, or?
I think an ASAP process, and again, that would be in conjunction with the construction of the wall. Captain Walsh said steel studs and drywall is going to be sufficient.
So build the wall first, turn off the utilities second, but
Right.
are you looking for this board to say go ahead, or?
Yes.
And again, just going back to Dan's question is, when you turn off the electricity, does that shut off those lights? Or is that a separate, switch box, something that, that if you shut off the electricity, is that parking lot gonna be lit or not lit?
Right. We have the opportunity to leave on parking lot lights with also turning off all the lights in the building. So I think that, I think is your concern is that the parking lot would
I mean,
remain
does
lit.
code call upon us to have a lit area there? Does our own code call for that?
I would imagine it does. So we probably.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I would
Yeah.
research that and
Right.
see what happens if we turn them off or leave them on.
So you used a phrase before that I want some clarification on. You said that we're not going to disconnect, we're going to turn it off. It seems to me that earlier in the summer, when we went through the billing process, that the biggest expense was the, I don't know, the,
Flat fee.
The minimum hookup charge?
yeah, whatever it was. So are we going to be able to save that? Like,
Interesting enough, after I had multiple conversations with Duke myself and with representatives in a variety of layers at Duke, those fees have ceased.
good, okay. Because my concern was it sounded like we could still,
At least one person at Duke told me, yes, that is going to remain, that surcharge, and then
they disappeared.
it disappeared. The bill was $90,
Okay.
not 12,000.
So we don't, sounds like we don't have a firm commitment either way. We're just rolling the dice and waiting to see when the bill comes in.
I think that during this process, when we work with the port and their building manager,
Okay,
we will ensure that we have cut virtually all of our expenses on utilities.
it sounds like, no offense to anyone here at Colerain, but it seems like the port has a little bit more, the port, because they've done so many more projects, has,
It's very possible that, like I said, I was the one that made the calls to
Okay,
Duke
good.
Energy.
so those are gone.
Yes,
I'm happy.
I am too.
Okay. That was my main concern, because it seemed like when you use that phrase, the alarm bells went off that thought, we're still gonna have the Duke delivery charge or whatever it is, or,
I would make a motion to accept the recommendation from Mr. Miller to turn off the utilities at the facility, provided we are able to leave the lights on in the parking lot for safety and compliance purposes,
And after a wall was constructed.
and after a wall was constructed, sure.
I'll second that. Is there any further discussion with regard to that motion?
Wall first, turn off the ventilation in the second. But the wall has to be completed because
Otherwise,
it
you
will
got the-
cause some real problems in the rest of the mall if there's no wall, no sealed wall there.
I'm good.
All right, I think that's pretty clear, so we'll go ahead and call for a
Is
vote.
there a date on, what's the prospective date that all this would happen?
Last week, they were projecting a couple weeks out that they would be able to start that process.
So just today's September 10th, probably by September
Yeah, at
30th.
least by the end of the month.
Do we anticipate that so is the wall, is the wall part of the grant? Do we have to go for requests for bids on that, or is it gonna be over?
That is going to be the port's call, since they're owner and
Okay.
and operator.
All right, no more discussion, I guess.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Miss Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. Waller,
Yes.
Mr. Morbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. McElravy,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
That passes 7-0. All right, next is item B, motion to authorize executive director to enter into contract for site broker services for training center Station 26 and/or Station 102.
All right, so what I have provided to you were copies, you have hard copies of what the brokerage companies provided. We received 5 responses, and then we have taken the data from those responses to the RFP, and I created a spreadsheet for you. So that's what the blue and white is. And we have a comparison of the 5 responses in the particular categories for their fees, any conditions, the comps that are listed by address for the training center, Station 26, and then 102, what each of the brokers' presence are in our region and beyond. And then 2 of the brokers actually provided ideas for site development that just go with their valuation, their estimated valuations based on comps. Again, within the brokerage responses, they each provided a comprehensive list of work that they've done in the region as well and their sales, but the specific valuations are listed there on the spreadsheet.
So I am going to do something that's going to complicate this even more. Okay. And I'm going to motion that we separate the question on this because I think that the training center is further along in terms of, I mean, it's ready to sell now versus the 2 stations, and that we've had some interest in at least one of the stations, and maybe a little bit in the other station, and that I think it would be to our advantage to list the training center first, and then come back, double back, and go after the fire stations, because if we've already had proposals, I don't want to pay somebody a commission for something we already have. If that makes sense.
Certainly makes sense.
So I would motion that we're going to actually authorize executive director to enter a contract for site broker services for solely the training center in this case.
That sounds agreeable, so I would second that.
Okay? And then we'll then discuss who we want to enter into the contract with. But I want to split the motion up that way so that we first agree that we're split, that we're not putting all 3 on.
Have we, besides when we listed it ourselves several months ago and we had the one offer was basically $0 with a establishing a future valuation for the training center property of, I think that the owner said he was going to put more than $2 million into it. Well, if he would have went ahead and accepted that as a value, I would have probably said go ahead at that time. But yeah, I think that's reasonable, Matt, what you're proposing to do it that way.
Okay? Any other discussion with regard to that?
Do you want to name a specific broker?
Now,
that you'd like to-
I want to first pass that motion
Okay.
to separate it, then we'll discuss the naming, because if we disagree about the naming of a broker, at least we've separated this and we're going to sell this one first, or
Okay.
list this one first. So I'll call the question then on the motion to authorize the executive director to enter into contract for site broker services for the training center.
And I'll second it.
And it's been seconded, so we'll call the vote.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Miss Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. Waller,
Yes.
Mr. Morbeck,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. McElravy,
Yes.
I vote yes.
Okay, that passes 7-0. Now we can open it up then for, boy, this is
Wide
This is
range.
a wide spectrum of valuations with regard to this. So we'll just open it up to see if anybody has a motion with regard to a potential brokerage firm.
David, has your group, just looking over all these packets, have you had one that weighs heavier in favor?
We did discuss all 5 of the proposals, and based on past experiences with some of them, we did seem to coalesce around Republic CRE. I think that his experience, not only in the region with a very large real estate company locally and beyond, it is a national broker. He actually was focused more on industrial, and so spun off to create his own as Republic. And so, based on the experience with him and what he has provided to us, we felt that that was that could be a very good choice.
Would they accept just doing one of the 3?
We can also probably, we don't need a commercial broker to list wood, thrush, and pole. We could do it with a local realtor there.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
We were gonna discuss about selling the properties that we have on
Yeah,
our,
yeah.
and so there's only really one saleable property on there. We don't have to really list that with a commercial broker. Probably
Okay.
a broker around here would probably be better.
So
for
the
that.
thing, with regard to the training station, so the thing that hit me is that really the one that you have, and I don't know if this makes a difference, with the one that has the national,
The 4 registrations into all the commercial.
was Lee and Associates.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it looks as if, I'm not making a prediction here, but it looks as if the Intel project is stuck in dry dock in Columbus, and that's going to have some dominoes that are going to fall. Intel's having some issues, and I don't know that that's going to cross the finish line, but and part of the advantage of that is that they were going to have reach, because their vendors had to be at least 60 miles away because they didn't want to compete for employees. That was going to have reach that would theoretically reach to Dayton, Cincinnati, other places that could theoretically open up some issues. And that's why the national appealed to me, but then they followed up with they might just auction it off. Well, we can get an auctioneer to do that. I mean, that's, and I don't know that that's exactly the most efficient way to sell that piece of property.
And my observation in looking at the various documents was that there seemed to be an inflated price from both, excuse me, 3 CRE and from Lee and Associates. And I believe, based on what our feedback has been, that those, and they seem totally unrealistic for that piece of property.
Yeah, 1.2 million, that's,
I've showed it, there's,
so your desire or recommendation from staff is Republic CRE, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, so I'm going to motion, based upon what I see here, and what I've looked at in the staff's guidance, that for the training center, that you begin to enter into negotiations with Republic CRE in order to list that property.
And I'll second it to get it to the floor for more discussion.
Again, another observation that at 4% brokerage fee, whether or not that is or isn't realistic for another broker to show the property or incentivize to do so, we're putting our eggs in their basket to sell the property. Is my feeling. Just with a 6% brokerage fee, it's going to be more enticing to other brokerages to come in and to show that property.
new NAR law states that when you write the contract, it can't be commission from broker to broker. It has to be in the contract if the seller's going to pay it on behalf of the buyer. So the 4% is a listing fee only. And then the other fees have to be in the purchase contract.
So let me ask, because, I mean, this is way different than residential. If I were to list a residential home, whatever, to throw a number out, $250,000, and somebody were to come in and offer that, and I turn it down, and it were the only offer, that could lead to some legal issues because, right?
If any broker brings you a full price offer with no contingency, they've done their job.
So-
And then you owe them a commission.
Part of the CIC is that we want the best use.
Right.
So what happened,
You're gonna have to put a contingency in there. It's approval on CIC.
okay,
Any contract you get in, you're gonna have to have it
okay.
contingent on all of us agreeing on that contract.
So they need to know that that they can't just bring us any buyer.
Yeah, they can put that in there. When they put it in their systems, that it has to have a approval by this board.
Now, what Dave's saying about the 4%, but it's 6% of sale price of the buyers represented by a broker.
Well, it depends what the buyer comes in with.
Okay.
Everything's on a negotiable basis.
So is the 4%, does the 4%
That's-
de-incentivize other
That's-
brokers?
No, that's what the whole lawsuit was about. The 4% is strictly a listing fee.
Okay,
Some buyers pay their own realtors. I think in commercial situations, that could be possible, but most of the time, they're probably gonna negotiate a commission on behalf of the buyer broker.
I missed one of the spots that does say that if the broker is represented by
Okay.
another broker, that there would be a split.
okay.
So it would be 4% if unrepresented.
Okay. Because I shared that concern as well. Why bother? I'll turn them to what I have listed.
My bad.
Okay, good.
So you want to enter into a contract with Republic CRE with the caveat that the final use of the property would need to be approved by the CIC? So whoever was, if somebody came along to buy it, and they might go, hey, I want to put a business in here, or hey, I want to clear the site and put residential back here, we would have to,
Still have to prove it, yes.
okay. So with that contingency being in the contract, then how long would the contract be for? How much time do they,
Normally, they want at least 6 months to a year.
Yeah. I don't think we had that on
I think
I mean, is 6 months okay?
we're going, you can always extend your contract after 6 months if you feel they've done a diligent job.
I don't know, we're headed into a time that's,
Yeah, it's gonna be an iffy year.
yeah. I mean, I mean, to me, 6 months is short, a year's long, 8 months seems to be, it's up to the pleasure of the board. It just seems that 6 months is,
By the time they get it into all the different areas of, it takes a while for them to get
Right.
into all the different social medias, whatever they're gonna put it into. So 3 months is way too short. 6 months is good. And like I said, we can always extend a contract on a 30-day basis.
and I want to recognize that we are tying their hands a bit because they have to get it by a board.
Right.
They
And
have to get what?
they have to get it by us. I mean, whoever they sell it to,
Right.
so. I don't want them to feel that, oh gosh, by the time I get it all advertised and everything, the contract's up.
So what do you want, 8 months?
No, I think 8 months is,
Okay, that's fine.
yeah, and yeah.
Okay. Getting all this, David?
Yes, sir. And I was just going to mention to you, Mr. Wallert, that he also lists the other agencies that he'll be listing it with. Major commercial databases, CoStar, LoopNet, C.I.C, and Catalyst,
Those are the 4 major ones.
Right.
which is Moody's, which are national reaches.
And C.I.C does get a lot of eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Do, Maggie or Jeff, do you have any comments or something you'd like to add? So read back what we've come up with.
So do you want to take a vote on using,
So-
8 months.
So the two specific criteria would be contingency that's approvable by CIC and then minimum of 8-month.
And then with the commissions that they've represented on this, that are carried out on this spreadsheet.
4%,
Well, they'll give you a
Sale
net sheet.
6%. Split.
Good.
All right. We'll go ahead and call a vote on that.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich, Mr. Wallert,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Morbeck, Mr. McElravy,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Mr. Miller, I'll add that when this all gets in the process, I would like to, I don't want them waiting on a meeting. I'd like to call an emergency meeting. If we get a marketable, if we get a offer that is in the ballpark, I don't want them to have to wait 4 weeks for our next meeting or something.
Agree.
Yeah. I don't want them to get cold feet, so to speak. All right. Discussion, other potential properties for market?
Well, the list that they had, the only one that really is marketable is the one at Wood Thrush and Pool. And I don't think you need a commercial broker for that.
Okay, so do these others fit into the, like, do they abut other homes that maybe
These are properties that are owned currently by the township, but they are in floodplains and not buildable. And so there doesn't appear to be a great marketable product there. And so we felt like the Pool Wood Thrush was primarily the one that we felt like could be buildable. And that's why it's provided to you and highlighted. Blanchetta, obviously, we just did basketball courts there, and the condos were torn down there because of the floodplain.
So this sagebrush,
That's a hill, it's a cliff. It's
okay.
Yeah, that's that, right, the highway, yeah, it backs up to like Quaker State there.
Okay.
made it look like it was a real steep property.
Oh, yeah.
In the past, we've thrown this open for offers, but in the past, the value hasn't been 55,000. They've been less.
Right, that is a valuation that the county auditor has provided that has a totally different perspective, and so that's not what we're, like, just as the fire training center has a $700,000+ valuation by the county auditor.
So are you recommending, is the staff recommendation to list this, or is the staff recommendation to ask for bids like we have for the, well, first of all, it would need to be transferred to the
C.I.C.
C.I.C.
Correct. And then the recommendation would be for us to market this through the C.I.C. and through our township opportunities, contact infill developers that we have had relationships with, and see if that's something that they would like to pursue, and have a similar process that we did with the sale of the other vacant properties, vacant lots.
All right, so do you need a motion from us, or just a sense?
The, to jump into the discussion here, these lots are so small. I mean, have we contacted the adjacent property owners to see if they wanted to have them as side yards, or we can't do
They're in
that? or-
floodplains, I don't think that people want them, because then they're gonna have to pay flood insurance. So it,
If they would attach it to their parcel?
absolutely, and it's so expensive.
For instance, 9508 Amarillo Court is 0.17 of an acre. Is there a house next door to
Oh, I
that,
don't,
perhaps?
Amarillo, I don't know, but all the other ones, he said were in floodplains, over off Blanchett.
But that street is, I think that street is on our rehab list, coming up in the next year or so, because it's,
The Amarillo property is adjacent to the pollinator garden.
Oh, okay, well,
we own that. Does the township own that? Because that's another vacant lot, the pollinator garden.
5 lots. That sounds right.
So what do you want to do, Matt or Kathy? Did you want to?
I just think we should try to sell, as, like we've done the other properties, put it out for any of the potential people that would like to buy it. see what we get from it.
But before enlisting.
Yeah, before enlistment,
Sure.
see what we can get for it.
Yeah, I think we need, I guess my ask would be for administration to prepare a transfer to the CIC and then for it to be discussed then.
Thanks, Dave. Good luck.
And, I mean, we've got this list now. Some of them I've been by, some of them I haven't.
So are you motioning to?
Do we need a motion?
You just want to direct
Yeah, let's just direct it. I think that's all we need is direction to, yeah.
Okay, well,
All right, I do not believe,
So you're directing David to advise the administrator to prepare a motion to transfer these to the CIC?
The pool wood thrush.
Thrush lot,
yeah,
Okay, and the rest of them,
just
to be determined.
give it the pollen, give them to the pollinator garden.
And I think we just need to think about, I think we need to get it out of the township's hands. But, I mean, if they're unsellable,
They're not. Not sellable.
all right, as we are running late, are there any other items for the good of the cause?
so what is the proposal for Station 26 and Station 102?
I say at this point, that we just hold off on that because we're not under a time pressure and we're getting interest. And, you know, if we get a $500,000 offer, 5% of that is, that we could save is a decent chunk of money. And that we just hold tight right now.
So that covers the agenda, except for if there's somebody in the audience that wants to say something?
Yeah, well, time depending, we're 12 after right now.
If I might ask a question, Mr. Wallert,
Yeah.
if we do have offers on 26 or 102, you would like for us to bring those proposals back to the CIC board at the soonest time possible? What would be your?
Yeah, and we haven't really had offers, we've had letters of interest, because, I mean, without due diligence on the buyer's part, it's really not an offer. But yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I think in order to keep this process moving, prior to our next trustee meeting, we should probably, because I want to get this moving before the end of the year, because I don't want to be paying for empty buildings in January, February, March, so.
I think when we know they're a month out, because when somebody wants to, when we put these properties up in the market, they're gonna want viewers, and then you're gonna need a lockbox and people coming in, and we have active firehouses, it's very hard to show.
Right.
So I think when we're a month out, it might be a little, when they're starting to move stuff in, I think that would be a good determination between if he's on the market.
So that said, we don't have a first meeting in October, would you entertain another CIC meeting prior to
That's
the
fine.
second October meeting?
That's fine.
Sure.
Sure, that's good.
So you're making a note of that?
Yes, sir.
Right, as we have gone way over,
I gave you the gavel.
are there any motions?
I motion that we would adjourn the CIC meeting at 6:13 PM.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Miss Ulrich, Mr. Wallert,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. McElravy.
yes.
I vote yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. We're adjourned now at 6:14. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we are going to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for September 10th, 2024. And we will ask, thank you, Jeff Wetbach to see if we needed an executive session. Oh, sorry, we just did roll call. Let's do that roll call again.
Ms. Ulrich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Board, I would request a motion to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G3 to discuss pending or imminent litigation, and in accordance with 121.22G2, to consider the sale of township property at competitive bidding.
I motion that we would go into executive session as described by Mr. Weckbach.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And,
Okay, it's officially 7:01. Time to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for September 10th, 2024, so we can go with roll call.
Ms. Orich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Is there anything to report from executive session?
Nothing to report.
Okay, then let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for our moment of meditation, Dan Unger would like to say a few words.
For a moment of meditation, I'd ask that everybody recall the memory of John Schwierling, who was a trustee here from 1969 through the beginning of 1990, and he will be recognized later in the meeting. So a moment of silence for him.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Baker, do we have approval of minutes?
Yes, thank you, Board. I would recommend an approval of a motion for the, a motion for the approval of the minutes from the August 27th, 2024 meeting.
I motion that we would approve the minutes from the August 27th meeting.
I'll second. Any discussions?
None from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board. The first item tonight is a proclamation in recognition of John Schwierling. If one of you would like to read that into the record.
Certainly. Thank you, Jeff. Proclamation for John Schwierling in memory of his years of dedicated service and impact on Colerain Township, Ohio. Whereas John Schwierling served as a trustee for Colerain Township from 1969 through 1990 and also served as a member of the Hamilton County Board of Zoning Appeals, and whereas under John's leadership, the Board of Trustees worked collaboratively with the community to consolidate the previously independent and separate Dunlap and Groesbeck volunteer fire departments to form the Colerain Township Fire Department, and whereas John helped to guide the township through a significant land transformation during the 1970s, including major changes brought about by the completion of Interstate 275, giving Colerain Township direct access to the interstate highway system. Whereas John was trustee during the construction of Fire Station 103 and the expansion of Fire Station 25. And whereas in his free time, John was a member of several different charitable clubs and organizations throughout Colerain Township and Hamilton County. And whereas John passed away on August 27, 2024 at the age of 91. His years of service to improving Colerain Township and making it a better place to live, work, and play will never be forgotten, and may he rest in peace. Therefore, be it resolved that the Colerain Township Board of Trustees recognizes John Schwierling for his dedication to Colerain Township. As a trustee for over 2 decades, John has contributed greatly to our community, and his legacy will not be lost or forgotten. And I would motion that we would approve this document.
I will second your motion.
And as a discussion item, anybody that watches our meetings and watches this board handle the issues of the day, I cannot think that there was a bigger issue than, and I was a teenager during those years, that Interstate 75 was extended, 275 was extended west from its terminus just west of Pippin Road and before you got to US 27, and everything that happened along Colerain Avenue with the widening, the business development, the beginning of Cross County Highway that was extended out to Colerain Avenue and sat like that until the 90s, and just all the different people's lives who were disrupted, subdivisions cut in half, Brem Road cut in half. I imagine that gave the trustees quite a bit of discussion at their meetings back at that time. And to be able to handle that along with these other things was certainly something that I'm sure Mr. Schwierling was very good at, so.
You can't tell anybody to take Cross County, you know. There's no signs that say Cross County, it's Ronald Reagan.
Well, it is.
I said that years ago.
It is the Ronald Reagan Highway.
Yes, that was a long time.
But there was just a lot of stuff that went on during those years, and I applaud Mr. Schwierling for all of his dedication to Colerain Township.
So if I can just make a quick comment, I didn't know John personally, but over the past few weeks, just hearing all these different stories from current and former employees that interacted with him when he was a trustee, and even looking at some of the items on this document are just impressive. You know, the fact that we have a consolidated fire department, not one that is split in our own community, goes a long way to ensuring that, you know, we provide that best-in-class ISO 1 service to all of our residents. And so there are countless thousands of lives that have been touched by John and his work. And so really appreciative of everything that he did for the township, and he will certainly be missed.
And I see Joe and Prina Schwierling are in the audience, and they did quite a bit for their father in his later years, and any family that takes care of the older people in their family that way is certainly to be commended, so.
I also did not know John other than by reputation and the work that he did in Colerain Township. It's one of the things that I probably address daily in my classes to my seniors where I teach is that you know, you have a responsibility to your community, and he certainly went above and beyond that responsibility. It's without men like John, we don't advance. The irony is for me, when 26 years ago, when I first started teaching government class, I kind of skipped the section on local government. And then about 2 or 3 years into it, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm skipping the most important part. And I'm certain that John recognized that as well. Local government is where you can make the biggest difference in people's lives. And we need folks that step up and you know, it's like Mr. Unger said, I can't imagine the controversies attached to extended I-275. I just, in my worst nightmares, couldn't imagine how difficult that was. But yeah, that's just a man that gave beyond his share. So certainly warranted for this proclamation.
And I did not know him either, but all the attributes that people have remembered, different things that they did with him, have all been so positive and nice to hear. Thank you.
And I would mention that in his later years, he was also very active at Clifford YMCA, and even though a lot of his government work was done, he took a lot of time to bring good cheer and fellowship to everyone that was ever around him. So.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Absolutely.
And we have multiple copies of the proclamation for you guys for all your citizens.
Which I will get to you, because now that it's approved, we'll need to sign them. I'll get them to you at the end of the meeting, or I'll stop by and drop them off.
Did you want a picture? Okay. Helen's over there. I just
You're
want to
welcome. You're certainly welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting and see what really goes on in local government.
Or you can
So-
run.
or now you can run, whatever you choose to do. So, but thank you for your dad's service,
Thank you
Joe.
for being here tonight. Okay, we go to citizens' address now. I do not have any forms filled out. Is there anybody in there that would like to speak that did not fill out a form? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, I guess we're going to move to administration reports.
Yep, and the first report tonight will be delivered by Fire Chief Alan Walls.
Welcome.
Good evening
Hello.
to the board and all of you in attendance or watching virtually. Incident activity for August of 2024. We had 750 EMS incidents. There were 197 fire incidents, We made 36 responses into the Pleasant Run EMS contract area. We had 1 response into the West College Hill Golfway EMS contract area. Fire-wise, we had 1 in the 10,200 block of Ropelt with a $3,000 loss, and we had 1 in the 9,400 block of Haddington with a $25,000 loss. Property value loss was $28,500, but property value saved was $624,600. So one fire I didn't reference there was only a $500 loss. That was at the drive-through at the corner of Pippin and Compton. It was a vehicle fire that extended to the building, but fast thinking by an arriving ambulance of ours that had a fire extinguisher, they were able to keep it in check a little bit until arriving fire companies could get there and get water on the fire. So great job by them, you know, grabbing that extinguisher and keeping the fire in check. We have an 87.68% save rate for 2024, and the average response time for the arrival of the first unit was 4 minutes and 53 seconds, and first unit on the scene, less than 6 minutes, was 75.4%. One thing, well, 2 things to note. September, Jim Bowman, our wellness coordinator, was very much behind a driving force for some of what you've probably seen on the news with the Red Alert First Responder Suicide Awareness Campaign. It's something that's very personal to him, likewise me. If you look at deaths in the fire service, last year there were 89 line of duty deaths reported by NFPA. There were 79 suicides validated by the Firefighter Behavioral Health Network, but that number is probably underreported by as much as 35 to 40%. Likewise, with our law enforcement colleagues, that number of suicides is relatively high. So Jim worked very much behind the scenes to bring attention to that. I'm very proud of the behavioral health and peer support program that we have here at the fire department. And secondly then, tomorrow is a very important anniversary in the history of this country, September the 11th. So kind of a sobering statistic, there were 343 firefighters who died on September the 11th of 2001. In the aftermath, though, there have been almost 400 firefighters as of this week who have died post 9/11 from 9/11 respiratory and cancer issues. Outside of that, unless anybody has any questions, that's
I
my.
thought it was a very wonderful, it was aired August 29th on WLW Channel 5, because it was Suicide Prevention Month in August, correct? And this month is Safety Awareness Month. So are we putting out any safety tips out on our website?
I don't want to steal Helen's thunder, so when she comes up, she will address that.
And I did want to make mention of one other note. In the fire department, Brad Miller put a lot of effort into coordinating a tabletop exercise through Hamilton County EMA that would get us all of our departments a little more prepared if there was some sort of incident that would happen inside the township at sort of a mass level. So that was a great exercise for us to engage in, and he put a yeoman's work into making that happen, and we couldn't be more happy than we are with our partnership with Hamilton County EMA.
And if you come to the chamber breakfast on Friday morning, you'll see Division Chief Brad Miller recognized as the Firefighter of the Year.
Oh, I'll be there.
All right.
Anything else?
Next report is Chief
Thank
Ed
you.
Cordy in the police department.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Evening.
Good evening.
In August, we responded to 3,731 calls for service, average of 120 calls per day. It somehow is only a 1% decrease from August of last year, but we're still looking at 3% or about 1,000 calls over when compared to last year. For the month, we conducted 323 traffic stops, handled 125 crash reports, and made 146 arrests. For the month, we had 6 OVI arrests, 3 uses of force, being 1 strike, 1 takedown, 1 taser deployment, 2 vehicle pursuits, and 2 internal investigations. It always does seem to be 2. You've made that comment to me. For the month, the busiest days of the week were Friday, followed by Thursday, and of course, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 1 a.m. Code enforcement for the month of August, 293 inspections, 67 violations were closed, 1 was referred to housing court, and we had a total of 8 abatements. Property maintenance violations was 26, zoning violations of only 3. Our ECU unit handled 3 litter complaints, 17 abandoned vehicles, 5 of which had to be towed, 16 parking complaints, and interacted with the public through communication 100 times. Stats for our impact team for August, they had 14 targeted traffic stops, had 14 felony charges, 16 misdemeanor charges, seized 372 grams of marijuana, 6 grams of meth, 3 grams of cocaine, towed 7 vehicles, 2 canine deployments, while assisting with the road on 58 details. They also followed up on tips that involved 120 hours of investigative time and conducted 6 search warrants. Update on the police department staffing. Currently, as we speak, we're at 58 officers, but by the 28th of this month, we'll be going down to 57, putting us below our total amount, which is going to result in from us having to pull somebody from a specialized assignment to supplement the road.
I wanted to thank you. I had Officer Boyd and Nick Hopewell at my office for Safety Awareness Month, and they were very informative. The safety was like this big, but we did code enforcement and the nuisances and how we as an office can make sure we have people in their rental registration and vacant houses. So they did a fantastic presentation on informing a lot of people today. They did a great job, so they should be commended. Thank you.
I'll share that.
And Chief, I wanted to tell you thanks. Occasionally during the day, I notice that we have some entrepreneurs that are standing on our off-ramps trying to solicit donations from motorists that are stopped at the light. And it's a very dangerous place to be, where vehicles are slowing down from highway speed to the end of an off-ramp. And not so much that the person's going to get hit, but if they see a green light and they're coming and there's a car that's stopped there, trying to give $1 to somebody at one of these off-ramps. I really appreciate you, as personnel are available, getting those folks moved along off the off-ramp. Typically, they need some type of mental assistance, and I don't know, when you run those people off, do you take them somewhere, or do you just tell them don't be on the off-ramp, or what is our...
Most of them just
Case by case.
most of them, we discussed that today, most of them are not homeless people. They're just scammers.
It's a very dangerous business to
Yes.
be blocking traffic on the off-ramp and standing there holding a sign, especially when the light turns green and there's still cars stopped. So I appreciate you dealing with that.
Sure. It's a case-by-case basis, some of which not necessarily in this area, but if you head downtown, that is definitely what is happening. You've got some that are homeless that are in dire need of some help. Then there's others that prey on the suburbs that are definitely predatory and do this for a purpose and for money. And we like to take them to jail.
Sure,
Because
well-
that is an arrestable, jailable offense.
Great, and I appreciate you. I know sometimes I'll send you a message, hey, this guy's out here at 12:30 in the afternoon. That's just not something we need. You've done a great job of getting the word out that is not something we tolerate here in Colerain Township, and I'm sure in his wildest dreams 50 years ago, Mr. Schwierling would not have tolerated that either. So when John, I don't know if you've ever met Joe, or you probably have.
Sat down and spoke just
Yeah.
before the meeting.
Yeah, his dad was really something, so I'm sure he would have never put up with that, so. But thank you for taking care of that important issue, so.
Thank you for everything, and the continued hard work, and just shining a light on the great things that your force is doing.
So I did just want to take one quick second to highlight some things that the police department has been doing. Ed and his team have been doing a great job of working with state agencies to get some reimbursement so we can do some additional saturated patrols, OVI checkpoints, and things like that. It's not something that we had necessarily been taking advantage of over the past decade, but I think that's part of the reason why you are seeing the uptick in just general traffic stops, and those dollars are allowing us to do more as a department in this sort of budgetary crunch that we've been faced with. So applaud Ed and his team for their efforts there.
More police on the street, love it.
Do what we can. I will take the opportunity just to discuss something that was overheard on the radio this morning, as was already discussed here tonight, that there is individuals now living and residing inside Macy's. Once again, this is, if the board directs, I'll go up there and walk through it as I did a few weeks ago in Sears. But SoFlo, correct, David? Is that the name of the company?
Yes.
SoFlo?
Yes.
So there's an active business that actually does returns that are either from some of the major distributors, and they buy the returns, and then they do an auction system. This has been going on for years up there. The interest, they come in, the customers come and go from the food court entrance of Macy's. So I'm not sure if the conversation is from seeing people coming in and out from the Springdale Road side of Macy's by the food court or not, but it's not accurate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next report will be delivered by Assistant Administrator Mays.
Welcome, Ms. Mays.
Thank you. Okay. For the previous month, the Public Services Dashboard includes vehicle counts for 3 specific parts. You will see Clipper Park was at 58,931 visits. And I'd like to clarify, visits means just one vehicle coming into the park. So that does not count how many people are actually inside the vehicle or foot traffic that enters. Heritage Park was at 48,775 for the year, and then Colerain Park was at 47,302. So I'd like to point out with Colerain Park, we're already exceeding our numbers from 2022 and 2023. I'm sure a lot has to do with the concerts, the new playgrounds, and that kind of action that's going on there, activating that park. The litter program, we are at 1,360 bags of trash for the year, year to date from August 31st. And I believe that's it for as far as that is concerned. Event-wise, we have one final summer concert that will be in our park, and it's on a Tuesday, so it will not be on a Friday, but that's what we agreed to with the band. But we will have Acoustic Blue on Tuesday, September 17th at Colerain Park, starting at 7, so join us there.
And just as a side note on events in general, we've recognized some updates to policies, which is part of the reason why you'll see later in the agenda a motion to set a work session to talk about policies. But in lieu of those updates being implemented, staff has suggested that we do not issue any new event permits. If folks are watching or looking for ways to host events, I would certainly encourage them to reach out to some of the other partners in the community, one of which is Great Parks, which actually has their own event structure. Farbach Warner, they've got several in our community that, while we're just fine-tuning what we do, would make sense to be perfect venues for anything that residents may be looking for.
And to also mention that they also have a similar permitting process that we practice as well, so.
Ms. Mays, kind of a pet peeve of mine, it's driving me crazy. I had, about a year ago, I had Mr. Weckbach move one of our benches to the South McDonald's because the carts were piling up there. And I go figure, now there are even more carts there, now that the bench is there. It just, I don't know if we can, and I guess they're coming from Walmart probably, or?
So we haven't necessarily talked about different actions that we could take. I mean, one action that we could consider is we just start collecting the carts that are left in the right of way and bringing them back here. And instead of what I believe we currently do, which is if we notice a cart, we return it to the owner. In theory, at some point, that would start to cost Walmart money if they have to keep replacing carts because their cart stock gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Because in today's day and age, I mean, quite frankly, there's technology that can lock the wheels to prevent that from happening. But, that's not necessarily a strategy that I would recommend at this moment, but it is certainly something that we can consider.
In the trash is I mean, most of our cans get picked up on a regular basis. That one's always overflowing.
Yeah, our cans right now are scheduled for twice a week. So certainly, if there is a can that we want to have picked up more frequently, I could look into doing a contract amendment to do that. That's also something that we could consider too. So
I don't know that any of this is going to fix it, because we put a bench there, and the bench is, nobody's sitting on the bench. They're all sitting on shopping carts. And
well, I suspect what you have is just the natural phenomenon, right? You go to the grocery store, you pick up your groceries, you want to take that cart as close as you can to your next stop, which is the bus stop, and once you take your groceries out of the cart, you don't necessarily return the cart, because if you leave them, your groceries might walk off on you, and so it creates that catch-22 for the person using mass transit.
maybe we could have, because it's not always it's the people that shop are long gone by that point.
Yes. And we could talk to Metro too and see, what recourses, what things are they doing in other communities? What are other communities doing?
And they have the Metro, the door-to-door service, which I don't understand. I mean,
well, and that's not necessarily every zone.
Right.
And to be honest, I think there's a bit of a food desert if you're coming up Colerain Avenue from the city proper until you essentially hit Walmart. I'm trying to think what larger supermarket there is before Walmart South, and I'm not sure that there is one. And so if you live down in city of Cincinnati, you may take the Metro bus up to Walmart and then take it back.
I don't know if the Kroger and
On North Bend.
OTR is still open. It
Right.
was a smaller Kroger. Yeah.
They moved that,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. But I'd like to at least try to address, because I think I counted like 11 carts the other day.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it looks awful. And it's nobody, look, I'm not blaming it's not our fault. It's not Walmart's fault. It's certainly not McDonald's fault.
We can put our heads together and strategize around that.
I mean, there's got to be some kind of third way of this that we can figure it out.
We could have a competition to see how high we could stack them.
Yeah. I mean, it's to that point where everybody has their own cart. There's not even two people in a cart. When I drove by and everybody had a cart, nobody was sitting on the bench, I just about lost it. I thought, you got to be kidding me. Because I had you move the bench there and put a concrete pad, and nobody's using the bench. And it was just mystifying to me that the carts can't be more comfortable than the bench.
Right.
Well, I know there was a person that lived in Northbrook, and one year he returned 24 carts to Kroger's, and he has not had to do that since they implemented those
Wheel locks.
systems. So they do work.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. I don't know if there's an answer, and I'm probably one of 4 people in the whole township that it drives nuts. But I drive by every morning, and it's like, ugh.
No, you're not alone.
Okay.
It's horrible looking.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Tiffany.
All right, next administrative report will be David Miller from the Development Department.
Thank you.
Oh, yay.
You did a lot of printing here, Mr. Miller. You had all that stuff for C.I.C. and this.
All right, so for the month of August, as you can see, we have dipped down a little bit. I think we were 93 last month for July, and then June was 96. So we only had 48 applications. There's a few certainly that are pending, waiting on information, but out of those 48, we had 39 that were residential, 9 commercial. We had 3 zoning commission cases and 2 Board of Zoning Appeal cases. And so that's it for development, except for the fact that, as you know, on your agenda tonight, we will consider a vote on the new zoning resolution. So that has taken a lot of time and energy from staff, and so I think we can see the finish line. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Board, the next report will be presented by Communications Specialist Helen Tracy Noren.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening, Helen.
So as you know, one of my tasks that I love to do is spreading the good news throughout Colerain about what we're doing, what's happening in our community, and so forth. Since I saw you last a few weeks ago, we've had quite a few positive news stories where media has come to us either as an expert or to help tell our story. Again, these are all earned media wins. We don't have to pay for any of these promotions. They just like what we're doing and see us as an expert in these fields. So I've got a short video for you, but first I want to preface it with what some of these are. So we have a story about the fire department honoring a couple of YMCA lifeguards for saving the life of a person who was having a medical event while they were in the pool. Another one is a new iPhone feature that will allow you to video call 911 so that dispatchers can get a better understanding of what's going on in a scene. Again, just kind of getting our input as first responders to see, is this helpful? Is this not helpful? What is, what do firefighters and police think on this matter? And then the final one, as Chief Wall said, was the peer support and mental health, with September being National Suicide Awareness Month, and the wonderful work that we are doing here in the township from the fire and police standpoint. And with that,
Why, we are silent. How about the Recycle Day on September 28th?
yes, we have Recycle Day coming up on September 28th, so anything that you need to get rid of in your house, whether it be an old couch or if you have a collection of aluminum cans or whatever you have, we'll be happy to take those.
Are we doing tires this year? It says on the website.
We are doing tires, yes.
More tires, so
Yep.
just double checking with everybody.
We are indeed. And then if there's anything that you have that's hazardous household waste, Hamilton County Resource is hosting an event as well in Colerain Township. Their event is going to be on October 18th and 19th. But you do have to register for that.
All right, I think we got it working, so let's see.
Well, some much-deserved recognition here. 2 lifeguards in Colerain Township are being honored for their efforts saving a man from drowning. This happened back in December when that man had a medical emergency while he was swimming at the Clifford YMCA. Luke Hageman, he was on duty at the time. He was the first one to recognize that this man was in trouble. And then another lifeguard, Jamie Bulmer, he helped apply oxygen while other YMCA employees used an AED to revive the man. Both lifeguards receiving that accommodation from the Colerain Fire Department. Again, much deserved, a life saved there.
During an emergency, callers will soon be able to send a live video to dispatchers. Now, the new program will roll out as part of Apple's iOS 18 update. The dispatcher will send a request for the caller to share the live video. Now, some of those screenshots will look like what you normally see during a FaceTime. The new feature will also allow callers to share pictures from their camera roll. Now, first responders locally say this new tool will give them essential information when seconds can make all the difference.
They're standing out in the front yard or in front of a building, they could then, live stream what they're seeing. If there's smoke showing, flames visible or something like that. That changes our response. Gets more units on the road and arriving on scene in a timely manner. The more information that we receive prior to arriving on scene, the better it helps us, build out our game plan. It helps us determine the number of units that need to respond.
Now, the new update, including the emergency video calling, will come out this fall. It will only be available for iPhone 10s or newer.
This is really shocking and something you probably don't realize, but more firefighters die by suicide every year than from injuries on the job.
Got my attention for sure as we head into September, which is, by the way, Suicide Prevention Month. Colerain Township Fire is launching a support team to help firefighters prioritize their mental health.
Within one shift, a firefighter can see that trauma over and over, and then you multiply that by a career.
An increasing number of firefighters die by suicide, experiencing mental health issues such as post-traumatic stress contracted from exposures they suffer on the job.
And it unfortunately then takes an individual down a rabbit hole to where they could feel helpless and ultimately hopeless.
Last year, the Colerain Township Fire Department lost one of their own to suicide.
From my standpoint, I felt an obligation and responsibility, but I also had a great deal of empathy in that less than 4 years ago, my dad died by suicide.
Fire Chief Alan Walls wanted to do more to help the very men and women helping others every day.
The things that are, I would describe as unimaginable.
The scenes first responders arrive to can be some of the most devastating.
They say in a lifetime, say a civilian will only be exposed to a small level of trauma over their entire lifetime, whereas firefighters, we could see repeated trauma in a 24-hour shift, then multiply that by an entire career.
Colerain Township Fire Chief Alan Walls knows the toll of that trauma firsthand. Last year, the National Fire Protection Association reported 89 line-of-duty deaths. Compare that to an additional 79 firefighter suicides, according to the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance. A number Chief Walls worries is underreported.
We want to break that stigma. We want to change that culture so that it's okay to say, I'm not okay.
This type of peer support is something Colerain's been doing for the past 6 years.
Proud that we have the program that we have, and we're making a difference in people's lives.
So those are just a few snippets. As you saw, we've got a wide variety of stations that are interested in what's happening in Colerain, with the positive news that's happening here and the things that we are on the cusp of helping create. And we got a fair number of messages actually on that last story with the peer support from other fire departments saying, this is great, I wish we had something like this. And hopefully they will get involved with tri-state peer support there. As you saw, Local 12, WLWT5, WCPO, Fox 19, The Inquirer have all done things on us just in the past couple of weeks. So that's fantastic. I also want to mention that on our fire Facebook page, we wished Ray Reza a happy 95th birthday. So he was an assistant fire chief to Corky Snyder. Wonderful, wonderful man, integral part of the fire department. He recalled that the Western Cabinet fire was his first big fire, and just going through what that felt like for him being in that moment and losing the firefighters on that incident. And so, wonderful man. We wish him a happy 95th birthday. I mentioned the Hamilton County hazardous waste drop-off. And then with the police department, we have Bunko put on by the Citizens Police Academy alumni happening on Saturday at the Senior Center. Doors open at 6 p.m. It's a good time. So if you've got a free Saturday night, that's what's going on. Thank you, Board.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Board. And to conclude administrative reports, I just had a few comments as I was reflecting on tomorrow, which is 9/11. As Alan kind of touched on it, there were hundreds, thousands of fire and EMS and police personnel that all responded, in addition to public services and other facets to those tragic events. Excuse me. When I think about the courage that all those folks took in those moments, I think back to our own units and our own people that work for this community, and I have no doubt in my mind that they would be right there with them. We have a tremendous staff, top to bottom, all of our departments that I know when they're needed would be called on. And on a slightly different note, just in context of everything going on in the world, I still fondly remember those days immediately following 9/11 where we all came together. We put aside differences, whether that was political parties, race, whatever identity you might have, and we all came together just as, citizens of the United States of America. And, hopefully we can all reflect on that. I was thinking to myself how those folks who are in college today probably were not alive for September 11, 2001. And we can't let those shared experiences that we all had from those days go by the wayside, and we should all try to come together and just do our best day by day. So, and with that, that will conclude administrative reports.
Nice, thank you. Okay, who wants to do the trustee report?
I'll go ahead and go. Just piggyback on that. It's, 9/11, 2001, I was a teacher at St. Henry, which was about, the high school's about a mile and a half from the airport. So that held a special kind of significance because no one knew what was going on. A lot of my students, their parents were airline pilots, flight attendants. They didn't know where they were. I mean, it was so commonplace that, that they were gone out of town. They didn't know what flight they were on. I think it'd be fair to say that, it was a life-changing event for me because, when I watched citizens, just normal citizens, not soldiers, not people that signed up to put their life in danger, jumping out of the towers because it was so bad. I suddenly felt selfish that I hadn't taken my role as a citizen nearly strong enough. And I had high school students looking to me to explain something that I couldn't explain. And I will never forget. I mean, obviously, the hard thing is the kids I teach now, they weren't born. And it's very difficult to kind of duplicate that. And like Jeff said, you remember just so many things. And I don't know if anybody's ever had a chance to see the ESPN first pitch, but that George W. Bush first pitch, it kind of took America and brought us back together, was just absolutely the most just pride-inducing thing. And to see, I remember a hockey game, people stopped to hear a presidential address. And it's just been, it seems like yesterday, but it also seems like a lifetime ago. And it definitely changed my life. It made me commit to being a citizen. And made me realize what my responsibilities were. That, you got to do more than just go out and vote. That our republic, it's up to everyone. It's not, I never served in the military. And in 2001, I think was my second year teaching. It was supposed to be a pit stop to something else, to the business world or something. And I realized, you know what? This is the place where I could make a difference. And, I've been there since. So, and there's, every year it gets harder because, you get, I don't know what's happened with the internet and all these conspiracy theories, but instead of getting kids that have lived through it, now I get, well, I heard it was an inside job, and I get all these wild conspiracy theories. The two things that I always take from it are showing Jon Stewart reacting after 9/11, and talking about talking about how people viewed Bin Laden as this incredible genius because he took down these buildings, and Jon Stewart said, no, they're cowards. Anybody can tear something down. What it takes is to build something up is important. And he talked about his view from his apartment in Manhattan used to be the Twin Towers, and how it just was so heartbreaking. Those were gone. But now his view was the Statue of Liberty. And he goes, that's not bad either. And then George W. Bush in the first pitch, and he's down in Yankee Stadium, and I mean, the old Yankee Stadium and all the ghosts of Yankee Stadium, and he's warming up. Derek Jeter, as only Derek Jeter comes up and says, "You going to throw from the mound?" He's talking trash to Bush at one of the most important. Bush says this was the most important moment of my presidency, because he had thrown out a first pitch and it was trash before. And he goes, "I got to get this over the plate." And Jeter's like, "Yeah, but you got to stand on the mound too." And Jeter's adding all this pressure to him. And he goes out there, and if you have a chance to watch, I think it's a 20 for 20. It's like maybe 18 minutes long. He just barrels a strike. And New York Stadium goes nuts. And the context of this is that day there were further terror alerts, and Yankee Stadium was locked down for several days and searched because we were afraid something was going to happen. And, he had to wear a bulletproof vest out there to throw the first pitch, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And it just, since then, I've had a number of students that have served in both Afghanistan and Iraq. I've got up in my classroom a flag from somebody's unit from Afghanistan, and I couldn't be more proud of the response that we had to that just terrible day. If you ever get a chance for a long weekend, go out near Pittsburgh and view the Flight 93. It is, I've not been back to New York since. I've been to Washington since, but Flight 93 is probably, to me, the most emotional place you can go because, that was in the middle of nowhere. They didn't even have a fire department. They had volunteer fire people respond. And you can see, they actually have a special place that's fenced off for family too, but you can see the stuff that the people carried on the plane. And Todd Beeman, who's just an absolute American hero, he was the guy that said, they're going to crash the plane and we're going to do something about it. He was reading a book on the flight called A Purpose-Driven Life. And that's in that museum. And it's just to see that field and to see the stuff, just Flight 93 Museum is just incredible. So I've blabbered on enough about 9/11. Everybody out here knows tomorrow I got to somehow take this and take this kind of passion and pain and import it into a bunch of 15-year-olds that don't know a thing about it, and let them know how important this day really was, and how normal Americans reacted on one of the biggest tragic days in our country's history, and the impact that it had in my life. So thank you for lending me your ear and letting me drone on about that, but it is definitely a day that changed who I am as a person forever. So,
when I went to New York and saw the devastation afterwards, where there was the emptiness where the Twin Towers was, and then I went back when they did the 9/11 memorial, and it's worth seeing. It's a beautiful memorial, and I think everybody on that day knew where they were and what they were doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. I heard it. My husband worked at GE at that time, and he always told me that was a target. I was fearful, so I can't imagine as a child where my parent was going to be. So I do remember sitting there watching TV, and you're glued to the TV and watching this people fly out. But the most beautiful thing that came out of it is people were kind to each other, and you saw the goodness. And that's where in life you try to find the good in people. And that's what I love about a lot of people that work here. And that's just giving Debbie Potzner put on a wonderful employee day. A few of us showed up, and David Miller ended up, and Karen won the cornhole tournament. So she's a wonderful person, did a wonderful job. And to get back to the township, if anybody would like to be on the CURB or CERB, however you want to do, Code Enforcement Review Board, or the BZA or the zoning, please apply online. We're looking for anybody out there that would like to also be a part of Colerain Township and help out.
Thank you, Kathy. That particular day, I was in sales for many, many years, and there's a Family Dollar store over in Kennedy Heights now. And that particular day, we had a 200 cubic yard concrete pour going on, and I was sitting in the office. I was the salesman, and the owner's wife called work and said, because we had a little television there, hey, turn on the TV. Some plane crashed, and I was sitting there watching what was going on at the first building, and then you saw this other plane come in live and hit the other building, and I just thought, you bastards, because I figured out what it was right away, and that was a very bad day, and there were certainly a lot of people who rose to the challenge of that day. I happened to be in New York in 1994 and actually went up in the old World Trade Center, and I've got some nice pictures from the observation deck up there. We had, of all things, we had gone up to a Bengals-Jets game, and they were playing some distance from there, but our host up there said, you should go see this building, it's really cool. I was back there again in 2015, and we did tour it's a beautiful memorial, and it's not very politically correct, and it lays out what happened to memorialize in time who the parties were who orchestrated that. There's a very nice reflecting fountain with all the names of the known names of the people that died that day. Below the plaza, there is a very well-done museum. It's got all sorts of artifacts, things people were carrying that day. Some recorded phone calls. Cell phones were a newer thing back then, but just different recordings that families had turned over. And the site is memorialized, and that might be a lesson for your classes. Go to that website and look up what's at that site, and encourage kids at some point in their life to get up there and look at the place. It is very well done and really something. Locally, thank you for helping me out with Queen City Metro passed a sales tax back in 2020, and a part of that is that there's now an evolving service called Metro Now, where anyone can, as long as you're within an area that they provide service, and those service areas are steadily expanding, but overall Joseph Road at Carousel Park, they do provide service there, and there was a nice lady that I met coming out of Home Depot the other day, and she certainly had some ambulatory issues, and she was very slowly moving across the lot just to get back to her place, and I went to see if she needed some help, and you helped me get her fixed up with Township, with our senior center, but mainly she's going to engage Metro Now, and she doesn't drive, so that's a big thing for her. So anybody that is in that situation where you can't get around, Metro Now provides that service to a good part of Colerain Township. Primarily, it's not too far west of Colerain Avenue yet, but it's making its way there. I always give out my phone number at these meetings. It's 513-404-3057, and through that, I learn a lot of things. Recently, I've been over on Cornwall helping resolve an issue. I did go over to Miles Road and look at the car issue over there. I did get a nice email from a concerned resident about the toddler playground, and it looks like between Tiffany and Jeff, you are addressing the questions over there. There's a nice fellow that parks a tractor trailer over at Kemper and Hamilton, and leaves the refrigeration unit run, and that's created an issue for some neighbors. I appreciate our people dealing with that. And as far as Chief Cordy's comments about what's going on at Northgate Mall, I am not on social media. I consider it a great waste of time. That's just me personally, but it did generate a couple phone calls about, I guess we must have done some undercover training in Sears.
Yep. We've done, the nice part about having a vacant building is that you can do some pretty unique trainings with your SWAT and your fire and all your different groups. So
somebody went on Facebook and put pictures of people carrying bags in and out of Sears that weren't dressed in any type of uniform. They neglected apparently to put in their Facebook pictures that we had some marked cruisers parked outside of the building, but I went ahead and told them it was our Area 51 where we kept the aliens, just to sort of add a little fire to it. There's nobody, our police department and our fire department are on top of these things. There's nobody living in those buildings, and there's nobody in there that doesn't belong in there. There are still over 30 stores open inside of the mall, and any of them would appreciate your patronage. I guess my last thing, I'd like to congratulate Colerain Township Joe Coney, who achieved something he's been looking for 31 years. And if you're watching tonight, Joe, congratulations on going to Columbus Saturday and dotting the I in Script, Ohio as an alumni. And he left Ohio State in 1993 and never got a chance to do that. It took him 31 years of waiting to get a chance to do that. We were up there Saturday. He was very ecstatic. And with that, I will turn over the rest of the meeting to you.
Didn't your son dot the I?
He did that in 2018.
Just so that.
But Joe was such a big supporter of Thomas, and so his turn came up. So that's good.
I would be remiss if I wouldn't point out, Mr. Weckbeck, what school did you graduate from?
Northern Illinois University.
Oh, and we seem to have a stand-in for Mr. Solomon today, not a stand-in.
I think he's still nursing his wounds from Notre Dame's loss.
Ah, okay. Just wanted to bring that up.
Football season, yay.
What was the Notre Dame loss? Tell me more.
Yeah. Anywho, the first items of new business tonight will come out of the public safety area, and that'll be Chief Ed Cordy.
Chief, welcome back.
Thank you. All right, we have item A, resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. This resolution allows for the removal of uncontrolled vegetation and/or refuge at the following properties: 2786 Hazelton Court, 2470 Impala Drive, 9995 Laura Linda Drive, 3248 Rinda Lane, 3383 Rocker Drive. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we would approve the resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at the properties as described by Chief Cordy.
I'll second that.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, item B, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 2807 Sheldon Avenue. At that address, there is a 2010 tan Nissan Altima with no tag. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to adopt a resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle, 2807 Sheldon Avenue, no tag, 2010 tan Nissan Altima.
Is it 2807 or 2840, or is there two of them on Sheldon? I see, okay. I'll second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, item C is resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 2840 Sheldon. At that address, there is a 2002 tan Toyota Avalon with Ohio license plate DQM 8553. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we adopt the resolution declaring the junk vehicle at 2840 Sheldon Avenue as described by Chief Cordy.
I'll second.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, lastly, item D, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3316 Lapland Drive. At this address, there are two vehicles, first being a 2003 Silver Mercury Grand Marquis with Ohio license plate GJN 1574. Second being a 2007 gray Ford Explorer with Ohio license plate KAW 4280. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I'll motion to declare two junk motor vehicles in 3316 Lapland Drive, a 2003 Silver Mercury Grand Marquis and a 2007 gray Ford Explorer.
I will second it. And I would just like to mention, for those that don't know, what this does is start the 14-day clock to give the property owner 14 days to get it off the property, and at that point, we will go out and impound it.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Chief.
Hey, Board, the next item will be presented by David Miller. He has a short presentation on this item for you all that will try to capture the 5+ years of work that has gone into this zoning resolution update in just a few quick moments. So, David?
5 years. Okay, good luck. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we have a proposal before you for a full replacement of our zoning resolution. So this encompasses all of our laws that address use and land in the township. So being in the Economic Development Department, I said, you know, it starts with planning and zoning, and that's what we've done. In 2021, we passed a new comp plan, a comprehensive plan that said, here's where the township wants to go. And so now what we're doing is passing the laws that help us accomplish those goals in the comp plan. It's a strategic location. We are charting that direction out through this law. Colerain, we think's very strong in that we have 60,000 or so in population. We seem to compete. We somewhere in the first, second, third, I think, in size. I think we often compete with the neighbor for the greater population. It's only because of who is eating lunch where. And so it goes back and forth. There's only a few hundred different, but we're the 14th largest jurisdiction in the state of Ohio. Think about that. We're larger than half the counties in the state. Out of 88, we're larger than 44. So we have we are proud to say we have strong relationships with the schools, Northwest local schools, with businesses, with the chamber, and so we work to grow those, and I think this proposal is going to do that as well, and working on those connections. So why do we have a zoning code? So we want to have control. I mean, to the greatest degree, Hamilton County did all of our zoning, regulated that pre-96. We did not have control. We didn't have influence over development and the direction it was going, and it was a longer process. So we took it in-house in 1996, so we can control those items from within and build those relationships, and I think that's proven itself in all that we have seen. So as you look at the zoning resolution itself, we set out in the beginning a rationale for why we have our own zoning, and I've just highlighted a few of those. It's in the interest of our own public health and safety. We are regulating the location, the height, the bulk, the number of stories, size of buildings and other structures. These are all in the detail of this over 200-page resolution. We regulate the setbacks, the sizes of yards, the courts, the open spaces, the density, all of those items. It is for the public convenience. It's not just because we want to control people's lives. We genuinely believe that we have their best interest in mind, and so it's for the comfort, prosperity, and the general welfare of our citizens, and that's what we're attempting to do through this zoning resolution. So I want to just show you, this is our current zoning map, very busy. You can see all of the zoning districts there on the right side of the map, from B1, 2, 3, all of the I and O, the PDs, the planned districts, the residential districts, and then the riverfront and the solid waste district. All those are color coded. So here's where the things that we are changing. So we have gone from a reduction in the number and then the change in names of zones and districts. From R1 through R7, we're going to B1, B3, O1, I1. We're going to fewer, which is rural residential, single and 2 unit, multi-unit, and then neighborhood mixed. We have a light intensity industry, green space, open space, and recreation. And then Colerain Avenue, mixed north, central, and south, sanitary landfill, and then a planned district. So I think this is our zoning map as we just briefly ran through those. It's color-coded here. Each of those are outlined there on your right. Those are our new zoning districts. So now, if you look at the next page, I think this is where those are the planned districts. So those are the PDs that we've established over the years. They are going to remain. Flood hazard overlay is there, of course, along the western perimeter. So the next slide overlays what our character districts are, our character areas. You can see where those are, itemized by number. And then when you combine those together, So this is our new zoning map. The color-coded are the character areas. The yellow is the PD. So think of it as an overlay. We didn't get rid of our neighborhoods, our character areas. They're all still there. It's just the zoning designation in the districts that are changing. So nobody's lost their neighborhoods. Might have lost something else, but all right. I think is that it? Yeah, it is.
I think that's it for the presentation. So, as part of this update, there were quite a number of bits and pieces of text that did have to change. That naturally occurs when you start to consolidate different districts and what have you. So I think David has a recommendation with an attachment for some conditions to the proposed draft that is in front of you all today.
So as we've just continued to work through some changes, as a part of the resolution that was in your packet, there were some conditions that were laid out as very small changes. As we read through it again, there was one particular page where there was a blank. It was supposed to have a distance in there of a certain number of footage for setback, and that was missing, so we've added that. After consulting with our law director, we've added one other change that I'll explain.
So this final change deals with halfway houses and how they are applied to make sure that they comply with the different Fair Housing Acts that exist. So that's one final change that we had in there as well.
Can we talk about another change that would like to see on there?
Yeah, so I think what would make sense would be to either have a motion that would have an additional condition, or to just have a conversation about the proposed motion with conditions, but that's at the privilege of the board.
I've got one or two also.
Okay, I do.
We need to get this to the floor first, or can we discuss this without?
I think if you want to make a motion, and then you could amend the motion to include additional conditions along the way.
So if I might answer, in your packet, you've got two resolutions, one to approve, one to deny, case CZC 24-8, which is the text amendment that was recommended to you by the Zoning Commission. So with that, there were the conditions that I gave you, plus the one amendment that is added on the handout. So
Can we ask questions about Exhibit A before we
yes, you may
make a decision to motion for this? On the group homes, halfway houses for children, and it's not just those group homes. There's, as we've learned over the last year, there's a lot of different looks at that. It seems like they were prevented from being within 600 feet from each other. Is that contained in here?
Yes, it is.
So a
That does
group
remain.
home for juveniles, such as the one we've had issues with over on Hawkhurst, could that be within 600 feet of a group home for developmentally disabled adults?
Not without getting a variance through the BZA.
So they are.
They're all classified under one
everything's
definition, yes.
They all have to be, well, that satisfies my concern there. That keeps somebody from having 5 of them in a row, each one with a different purpose.
And I think to touch on briefly, there is a mechanism to any of our rules in our zoning code, and that is either plan developments like we see through Zoning Commission, or to request variances through the Board of Zoning Appeals. And so there's always a chance that you could have more than one within 600 feet of each other, but you would have to go through the BZA process to be granted that variance for a hardship of some sort.
And part of the structure of our local government here is that the zoning board members and the BZA members, sometimes they survive the terms of the trustees, so that you couldn't just bring in a new board of trustees and get rid of people you didn't like, and it's a good separation of powers. Yes, I would like to be able just to do what I want, but I understand that there's a purpose for that, and I think it's a good purpose. So good, you've answered my question about that. As far as the recreational vehicles or utility trailers, right now, what is the feet away from property line.
So currently, in our R1 and R2 district, you have to be parked 25 feet from the property line. R3 is 20 feet, R4 is 10 feet, R5, 6, and 7 is 5 feet. So 5, 10, 20, 25, we just,
And the R6 and 7 is
5 feet.
and that the type of structure that's in those two zoning,
Those are generally single, well, R7 is going to be your multi-residential apartments, and then R6 would be your single-family residences along with R5.
Right, and my concern with expanding that to 15 feet is you're gonna have a whole lot of, because we do have some smaller housing stock in the township, and you're gonna tell a lot of people that they can't have their, their maintained camper trailer or motorhome just because you've just forced them out of their property. So I'd be more in favor of maintaining that 5 foot.
Yeah, and so this is where, as part of the nuance of combining districts, we've got some balancing that we did throughout. And so looking at certainly what was previously R6, 7, and 5, which had the 5 foot limit, that got consolidated in with the R3s and 4s, which had the higher limits. Looking at properties, looking at what we saw, our recommendation was 15 feet based off of that. R1 and 2 is essentially what is now your rural district, and so that would be consistent with the 25 foot as well. But that was just our thought in looking at what existed today. Certainly, if you go to a lower amount, then you are providing some more flexibility for more homeowners that currently have a 20-foot limit to, only need 5 feet or what have you. So that's something else to keep in mind too.
I can think of so many properties in our subdivisions where the driveway along the side of the house is 15 feet is not going to allow them to park their equipment, and
yeah,
I wouldn't want to take away from anybody.
Yeah, most of your homes in
a lot of people being able to have travel trailers or recreational vehicles or a boat for that matter, and so I'd be more in favor of having that at 5 feet.
In most of the homes in those areas, they tend to have smaller driveways to begin with, and so if you're parking a residential recreational vehicle, you're essentially then limiting your own personal vehicle parking to the roadway. That's another common complaint that we get quite a bit is, my neighbor has 5 vehicles on the road, and I want a dedicated spot, and our response is usually, we don't do dedicated parking spots for residents. So there is a potential externality of having the smaller level as well. So that's just something to consider.
Well, and those would be my comments on Exhibit A. You're going to force a lot of people out of the potential of having, something for recreation, whether it's a boat or a small pop-up camper or anything. I would certainly encourage and not everybody can afford to park it somewhere else at a parking facility. And, if it's home for a couple months during the summer when they're using their boat or whatever, and it goes away and after Labor Day, I would just as soon have that be to support the greatest number of residents, which are, I don't have one, but
sure,
if I parked it in my driveway, I'd be I wouldn't be able to have one at my house.
Yeah, so my recommendation for process-wise for this would be, as we're considering additional conditions to the resolution, that if a trustee has a condition that one of you motions, seconds, you take a vote on adding that condition, and then as we kind of get through, we'll be building the list, I guess, as we go for a final motion that would be adoption of the resolution with all the conditions that we wind up with.
So you would want me to motion to have that Article 4 development design standards set at 5 feet? And I think your house, Matt, I don't think you'd be able to have one either because you're in a smaller home, and you're just going to have an awful lot of residents that aren't able to have those amenities or have that.
Sure. Yes. So I would recommend that you motion to modify condition 2 to reflect a 5-foot setback from all property lines in the STR zone.
I will motion that condition 2 be modified to have that at 5 feet, and we could change it down the road, but for now I'd like it at 5 feet.
I'll second.
And I think I've offered my discussion on it,
Okay, are we voting on that and then,
just to have that be 5 feet.
okay,
So this is just a vote to change that condition. It's not a vote on adoption of the full resolution yet.
Ms. Orich?
yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Okay, my condition is on the single-family duplex. We have almost 3,000 rental units in Colerain Township now. There are so many big corporations coming in here and buying our subdivisions and renting them out. We have a subdivision over here that's 4-bedroom, 2 stories. They can start coming in and buying them and making 2-family more rental units. I don't think this is a fair zoning regulation for any subdivision in Colerain Township. There's too many different municipalities that have too many rental units that we have problems with. 99% of our nuisances and our that we go through our environmental division are rentals, and I do not want to see more rentals in our subdivisions.
And so David has prepared a potential additional condition that he'll hand out to you all for consideration.
And this is with what Kathy's describing?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this sort of reorders them, but this would be a change to Article 2's definition. It would change the designation from STR to what would be called SUR, single unit residential, and modifies the definition to we believe, meet the purpose of what you've stated, Ms. Ulrich.
So do we need to,
We don't have
we need to vote on that or not?
So I would recommend that you all motion to amend the conditions to add this item, and then vote on that, and then we'll have a updated.
So I'll motion to amend the item on single and 2-unit residential to single unit residential as shown in Exhibit A.
Okay, I'll second.
And if somebody wanted to go ahead and do the way it is, they could just go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and change it on a per unit or per property basis. So there is a mechanism if you would decide to change it.
Yeah, but we don't want to see our subdivisions start
I understand
turning a
that.
bunch of duplexes
I
everywhere.
understand that. That's my only comment.
Okay.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And I had a request for a friendly amendment. We recognize that some of the image references in the document were not working properly. It says error source not found, so just a condition that we clean up those image references in the document itself. As requesting that motion from you all.
I'll motion that the image not found illustrations be cleaned up in the final document.
I'll second.
That won't change any policy. It's just fixing some technical issues with the electronic version of this.
That is correct.
You worked on this for 5 years and we still have these problems? Is that what I'm hearing? I'm just kidding.
We did shut the computer down and restart it. It still didn't fix it. Sorry.
There you go.
I'm good.
And so you know, we have created a punch list of at this point I think it has 99 different items to implement this and get it online within a 30-day period if it so is passed tonight, and so this would definitely be one of those.
A lot of people are
Push it to
using
100.
the MySpace. You might want to put it up there.
And I wanted to just make, well, if you want to
You vote on this
that
motion?
one,
Yep.
Go ahead.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
I want to just mention as well as part of Exhibit A, the item 2, which is the Article 3 relative to group homes and halfway houses. Currently, what was proposed in the packet, it was approved by right in the RER, STR, and MUR, and we have submitted language here. They would be approved by right in the MUR, which is the multi-unit, it would be conditional use in the STR and not prohibited in STR, but it'd be prohibited in other zones. And that's just based on counsel from our law director, that it would allow that to be pursued through our Board of Zoning Appeals if someone wanted to be in.
And that's a constitutional issue?
Yes.
Okay. So I will motion that.
And we don't need that motion there. So where we are is the motion on the floor, my understanding is to adopt the resolution subject to the 4 conditions that we just outlined, which includes changing the STR to SUR, so single and 2 unit to single unit, the group home for children that David / halfway house that David just described, changing the recreational vehicles to be 5 feet from all property lines in STR, 25 in the RER, and then to clean up any of the image not found error signs.
I got to be honest with you, the STR, the SUR, the RER, I've got all these R's floating around in my head right now. It's making me
So
dizzy.
did we vote on the last thing we needed to vote on? Yeah, so we're good. And so the next thing would be for someone to come along and,
So we have a motion and second on the floor, so if there's no more discussion on the full resolution, I would recommend
I
moving
don't think
forward.
we have a motion
we didn't.
or a second
Okay.
for the amended
Right.
resolution.
So I will go ahead and resolve to approve case CZC 24-8 text amendment to all articles of the Colerain Township zoning resolution and attached addendums of the updated zoning map.
I'll second that.
And Matt can lift his book up, and thank you for all that wonderful reading we did.
So,
But a lot of hard work into
so the
that.
next step in this is if this vote approves it, then does that start a,
Starts a clock on a referendum period, so if enough signatures are raised, this could go to referendum. If not enough signatures are raised, then is it 30 days it becomes effective?
30 days,
this would become effective around
October the 10th.
October 10th or so, which is probably 30 days.
And this can also be changed at any point by a Board of Trustees by vote.
Yes, or zoning commission recommendation can go to the board for vote and what have you.
So it's not, there are civil remedies for people that are.
It's a living document.
And
done it
as
many
I said
times.
earlier, if somebody wants to do something that's not in the code, they can always go to our Board of Zoning Appeals, or, which is completely independent of this Board of Trustees.
All right, we're 8 minutes from kickoff.
What?
8 minutes from kickoff, just saying,
Okay,
from the
okay.
debate.
I'm good.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes,
Thank you, David. That was a tremendous amount of work.
thank you so much.
Last item of new business is a motion to set a special meeting of the Board of Trustees for capital budget and policy book work session on October 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. Per our rules of procedure, we have to have an annual review of capital as part of the budget process. So this meeting would meet that requirement. And then as part of this year's strategic plan, we wanted to dive in on all of our policies, and this would be sort of an unveiling of staff recommendations on policy changes and updates. And I would recommend adoption of the motion.
So a motion to set a special meeting of the Board of Trustees for capital budget and policy book work session for October 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m.
I'll second.
And my discussion would be earlier in the evening, we discussed having a CIC meeting that evening, so that would likely be at 5:30 with this next meeting at 6 that evening.
That's correct.
And that said, to those that like to show up at our meetings, we are not having a meeting, a first meeting in October. So the October 8th meeting that'll be our only meeting for October is the 22nd. No other comments.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The last items tonight are all consent items, which I'll read into the record for you. There's a donation acceptance in Fire and EMS from Cincinnati Moose Lodge 2 in the amount of $1,738.79. A donation in the Police Department from Cincinnati Moose Lodge 2 in an equal amount of $1,738.79. There's a promotion in EMS, or Fire and EMS. This would be Nathan Niehaus to full-time firefighter EMT at a rate of $22.43 per hour. A reclassification of current employee to part-time firefighter paramedic. That's Miss Linnea Head at a rate of $21.83. a new hire of a part-time firefighter EMT, Lucas Wilms, at $17.46 per hour. A contract that I signed with Duke Energy. This is for some utility work related to Colerain Avenue sidewalks. That it was for $2,648. A contract I signed with Alta Fiber. This is to connect our new fire stations to our existing internet loop so we could have dedicated uptime, and that is $735. And then finally, a grant award acceptance. This is from the Ohio Department of Public Safety. This is the Ohio Emergency Medical Services Grant in the amount of $1,200, and I would recommend approval of all consent items.
I'll motion to approve all the consent items A through H that Mr. Weckbach read that are in the agenda for this evening.
I'll second, and thank you, the Moose Lodge. They have been so generous. They have just.
You kind of stole my thunder on that. It seems like since I've been on this board now for 5 years almost, the Moose Lodge have been.
Just fantastic.
Yeah, they have been awesome to the police and fire, and it just, thank you.
No comments from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Baker, do we have a fiscal officer report?
Just a couple things. First, the bank reconciliation was completed for July. It was actually completed before our last meeting. I neglected to mention that. But the adjusted bank balance as of July 31st was $42,476,285.49. And then I also wanted to mention something regarding the rumors that were put out on Facebook, called into a radio station here. I received a phone call from someone asking what's going on, why is Colerain allowing illegal aliens to live in Macy's? So, when unsubstantiated, just completely fabricated stories get mentioned, most people would think, okay, well, that's not true. But when it's aired on the radio and people actually hear a caller call in, it gives it legitimacy when it's on the radio and when it's on the airwaves. So I would just caution someone to not, repeat stories that are unfounded, because it really tarnishes reputation and causes a lot of work for people to have to go to, to prove that something as ridiculous as that is false. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Is there a need for an executive session?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, meeting's adjourned at 8:28, so Matt can get home.